All right, man. You know what I'm gonna ask? What made you smile today?
Oh man, my cats definitely made me smile today. They actually make me smile every day. They're like my kids basically at this point. Like, should I just keep going with this?
Yeah.
So I've never owned a pet in my life ever before, for a variety of reasons. But this cat I encountered at the back of my restaurant one night after closing. I turned a corner and something like startled me, and it was like this kitty, and I was like, oh, like, what are you doing here, kitty? And I wanted to feed her and stuff, but like my brother was just like, let's just go home. So we went home, and the next morning she was at our back door like meowing at us. So I mean, at that point I just had to like feed her, give her water. So she started just staying in the back of the restaurant, and we found out later, because one of my coworkers had a bunch of cats before, and he touched her belly, and he was like, oh, I think she's pregnant. And she was, definitely, because her belly started getting bigger and bigger. So at that point, I just could not leave her on the street. So I made plans to take her home. I did, and she gave birth to 4 kittens. So every day, the mom, her name's Nabi, which means butterfly in Korean. It's actually just like saying kitty in Korean, basically. But like she's always sleeps near my feet. So whenever I wake up, she's usually there, and she makes me smile.
Why did you wake up this morning?
Why did I wake up this morning? So last night I fell asleep really early, super early, after eating a bunch of food around like 10. So after like an 8-hour slumber, I just naturally woke up because I usually can't go longer than that. So it was like 4:30 in the morning. So I just or 6:30 in the morning, something like that. So I just watched some YouTube videos, did some light reading, and just stayed in bed with my cat all morning until I came out here to meet you. Yeah.
Seung, what does it mean to be Korean?
Well, I'm a special case, I think. Oh, not that special maybe, but I am literally just Korean. I am not Korean American yet. I want to become a Korean American, haven't gotten to do that yet, but I was born and raised in Seoul until I was like 9, which means that I'm just Korean. Although I've lived in now America more than I lived in Korea. But what it means to be Korean, I mean, it's culture, values, values like family, respect is a big thing in Korean culture, and giving respect to your elderly particularly is important to us, and all the things that go along with Korean culture. Some things I'm into more than others, like K-pop I'm not into that much, but I can read, write, and speak Korean fluently. So I do watch like some Korean variety shows here and there. I don't need translation or anything like that. I totally get the humor. And some stereotypes of Asian culture. It comes from some truth, right? We have our Confucian values and whatnot, more conservative for sure. It's crazy because, like, I don't know, wherever you go, if you see another Korean, it's really just a good feeling, and you just go say hi to them. Especially if you're in a foreign place or something like that. I'd imagine, like, in some place in Europe, it doesn't matter if you see another Korean, like, you're gonna connect, and I think that's great.
Yeah, what does it mean to you to be a Korean in America?
Korean in America, right?
Yeah.
So again, like, I am pretty particular in my situation because I grew up in Korea till I was like 9. So that was 4th grade. So I finished first semester of 4th grade and moved to Seattle. So I am still, like I said before, fluent in Korean. I can write it even. My spelling's not that great, but I can read a newspaper. I can watch Korean movies. No problem. But I have now been in America for, I might date myself here, like 29 years. 29 years. So I am very American in some respects, but I still do retain Korean things as well. So most Koreans that I hang out with here are Korean American, because I just vibe better with Korean Americans versus Koreans who are from Korea and they speak Korean amongst themselves and whatnot, because I am just not used to that at this point in my life, and the cultures that I follow and the way I dress or the way I talk even, or is very Korean American. But again, my Korean American friends aren't as Korean as me, I would say. Like, they sometimes wouldn't get jokes because they don't have like a cultural reference or whatever the reason might be that I would get if I heard it in Korean, if we heard it in Korean. And certain foods maybe they won't like or they couldn't eat maybe. That's kind of weird. I could. I don't know. There are differences. But I am not Korean American because I don't have an American citizenship. I am a DACA recipient. So that is kind of rare, actually, I guess, even among Korean communities. So even though I am Korean in America, there are certain things like that Korean Americans wouldn't get, like things I'm going through, or the way I think about certain things, or like I said earlier, even jokes. And but like Koreans that that moved here when they were adults already or something like that, there are things that I don't vibe with them on certain things, like and they don't either with me, because I am very American in my I don't know what I was saying, but yeah, so I'm basically like kind of in the middle. I am more Korean than my Korean American friends, but more like American than my Koreans that are just Korean, which is what I technically am, which is like a weird position to be in. I just thought about this too, like I'm somehow like more American than even my Korean American friends, even though I am Korean. And what I mean by that is Korean Americans, I mean, I think this is with every, minority group or whatever, but Korean Americans mostly tend to hang out with other Korean Americans. For example, they go out to K-Town a lot to go to bars and whatnot, and I just don't do that. My friend group that I hang out with now is just like pretty diverse. It's a mixture of just everybody. I am probably the only Korean in my friend group right now, and I particularly don't like hanging out in Koreatown and doing Korean things, like going to karaoke bars or rooms or whatever, or just drinking at a Korean bar. And I don't know why that is, but now that I think about it, it's true. Yeah, so I mean, I think being Korean American or Korean in America, I'm sure it's different for everybody, because of I mean, a lot of it depends on if you were born here or born in Korea, or like what age did you move to America from Korea, and those things make a huge difference, I think, in the person, in the way they view being Korean American, or view what being Korean means. Yeah, that's what I think about that. But yeah.
In this season of your life, what's life teaching you?
Yeah, this season. What do you mean by that? Like just like this past like winter, or
Yeah, it could
season
be
in life?
yeah, it could be this age.
Okay.
2022.
All right. You know what? I mean, okay. So the past few months, I've been going through some like huge life changes. So I think what is teaching me this season is that like change is inevitable. Things are just gonna change. I'm going through kind of like a a big I don't even want to say it's a career, like a career change. I was very like hands-on at my restaurant for like the past 5 years. I was basically, you know, the person running the front of the house in at the restaurant. But I felt like, why was I doing that job? Like, I could hire somebody else to do that job for me, because I should be concentrating on like the bigger picture. So I had to have a talk like with my family, and we figured it out. So I'm going to work less at the restaurant and take on a more like, I don't know, sort of a creative director type of a role there, or I'm just gonna like try to invent different dishes, or you know, more concentrate more on like the marketing side of things, you know. And while doing that, like figure out what I want to do for the next phase of my life, because I don't want to do this restaurant thing for the rest of my life. This thing is literally just to pay my bills, for me at least. I mean, I am having fun with like the creative parts of it, but I'm not a restaurateur kind of person, I don't think. So yeah, and I got content with the amount of money I was making and the comfort level I was at, and so I had to just kind of like, I don't even want to say force, but like make this happen. And I started that like not long ago, maybe like a month ago. I started doing that. I am now going to the store like twice a week, doing Uber deliveries myself for the rest of the time, and just like doing things I like more. So yeah, that's a big change in my life. Also, like a month ago, I broke up with my girlfriend of like 3.5 years. Wasn't the best of breakups, but you know, we're good now, and that's a huge change for me in my life as well. And through all that is what I realized. I realized over and over again that like change is constant. I am not going to be the same person that I am now 5 years from now. Definitely not. I'm not even the same person I was a year ago. I don't think. You know what I mean? So yeah, and part of the reason that like I guess me and my ex-girlfriend broke up was because like I was going through changes, and maybe she like, I don't even want to talk about it, but like I was going through some changes, and yeah, and that is inevitable, I think, and you know, you have to just accept that and go with the flow. Can't worry about the future too much. I mean, you got to have some sort of a plan, but know that like what you're picturing in your head about what the future is going to be may be totally different. So, you know, you have to be willing to just roll with it and accept changes. And I think that is what this season has taught me, yeah.
Have you gotten comfortable with change?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely in my 30s. I mean, I don't know. I guess, like, because I'm in my 30s, I'm just more comfortable in my own skin. And, like, I'm more financially stable as well. Whatever changes that come at me, like I'm able to, through experience too, I'm able to like deal with it better. You know, sometimes in the past when like something that I have been in a regular habit of doing isn't there anymore, I would either get frustrated or I don't know, like but yeah, and now like if I come across something like that, it's just okay, well like this changed, now like how do I deal with it, and just to move on from there and just accept that it happened whatever is going on. Yeah, so I'm definitely more comfortable now with changes than I have been before. Yeah.
What got you to be comfortable with change?
Oh, going through many changes, I guess, in my life. Like, you know, like I moved around a lot, from Korea to Seattle, Atlanta to LA. So I guess I was always pretty comfortable with like changes, like look geographically speaking, at least. And yeah, I think, you know, the more you age, the more you go through, the more you realize again that change is constant, and that definitely helped me deal with changes these days. Yeah.
In your hardest moments, what keeps you going?
Ooh, so I did think about this because we had talked about this question before, and I came to the conclusion that the the thing that keeps me going the most is to let my parents know that they haven't failed me. Because the reason I'm here in the first place is because, man, I'm kind of tearing up right now, is because my parents wanted me to be successful and achieve that American dream, right? So we basically came here with like nothing, and it's been a struggle, and I did make it into a Ivy League college, which was what my parents wanted, in the first place. Never finished it because of money and stuff like that, but because I couldn't finish college, I think my parents always have like this, I don't know, they feel sorry that they couldn't have supported me through college, and I think they've failed me, but I don't think so. Like everything turned out like, not as I expected, but I'm okay. Like, I have a great job, I'm making money, and I want to achieve that American dream to show my parents that they haven't failed me, and that I'm very thankful, and I'm proud of them. Yeah.
Yeah, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Because of what I have been going through in the past month or so, the best advice I've ever gotten is from my dad, who always tell me, date a lot of girls. Yeah, and it's true, I think. And date doesn't have to mean you have to have a sexual relationship with all these people. I mean, just date a lot of girls and see, figure out like what things that are important to you and what's not, and see if like whoever you're dating shares those same beliefs and values and stuff like that. I mean, you don't have to necessarily have the same values. I don't know, maybe that'll work for you, maybe it won't, but I was a late bloomer when it comes to dating. I don't know why. I was more like interested in like making it to an Ivy League college, I guess, in high school, so that's what I was doing. But now that I'm 38 and I have dated quite a few people, I guess, I think it's really important. Yeah, what my dad said, it was true. Like I always tossed that advice aside because I thought he was just joking and whatnot, but I think he meant it, now that I think about it. So yeah, the best advice I've ever gotten is from my dad. Date a lot of girls, or date a lot of guys if you're